So I don't know. That's not. But I'm not saying I'm not willing to work with, um, someone. But that's just not on the list.
They could be, have a hidden talent that's just not right there presented to you at first. Like they'll have, 1 through 7 on the list, but 8, 9, and 10 is tucked away, or you have to bring it out of them.
Yeah, I
You know?
understand that, but ultimately what I want is somebody that I can grow with. We can grow together because men seem to have a problem when a woman is really, really independent and when she's really well off. Men
Right.
seem to have a problem with that. That intimidates them. It intimidates them that a woman is doing well for herself and, any genre. That intimidates the men. So, excuse me. That's something to deal with in its own.
That's a whole nother story.
You a strong black woman and you doing this, doing that, I don't know. Well, but I know one thing. I got my list out there and everything, and I'm just...
Well, could you bring your list next time so I could look at it and see, maybe make mine?
Sure, I can do that, girl. I can give you some...
I mean, I have a list too,
everything.
but, it's not really a list for a husband.
Okay, let me ask you this. You say you have your list. Is it a list or is it a script?
It's a list.
It's a list. So I tell you what,
I don't have a
why
list.
don't we write a script? I think that'd be a good thing to do. We did write a script.
Yeah, but it wasn't about everything we wanted in a man or a husband or a life partner. That's what I want, a life partner.
Now, what is a life partner?
Understanding.
What is a life partner? I mean, break it down for me.
I mean, a life partner is somebody that we decide together what it is we want. Whether that's to be together forever, or if that's we just gonna live day by day, and if we end up together forever, or I just really want somebody who's willing to sit down and work out what it is we want versus
Contract?
yeah, a contract. That's exactly what I want.
I like contracts.
And we work that out instead of saying, okay, I want a husband. And in my mind, a husband equals, somebody that pay the bills, somebody that picks the kids up from school. All these little things that I have in my mind that there's no way that anybody could know everything in my mind
Right.
that means husband or what society says husband means. So somebody that's willing to work together, work out this contract, and it doesn't have to mirror until death do us part.
Right.
We could say, okay, let's be together, let's try this out for 3 years. And then after 3 years, we can renegotiate,
I like that.
It doesn't have to say that just because we building our life together that we have to live in the same house. Because a lot of marriages don't last because people live in the same house.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, just things that we can sit down and say. But for most
work
people,
for the two of you,
right,
not what everyone else wants you to
right. And in
Right.
my putting this out there, initially it hits people with a bad taste in their mouth, especially men. But if they deal with, if I know them for a period of time, over time, that kind of sinks in and it begins to make sense. But it's still kind of a hard thing to accept because culturally in our society, that's not the norm. So people just kind of like, she crazy. But I mean, yeah, that's what I want. It's somebody that we can say, this is what we want together.
I love that contract.
Yeah,
That contract
sounds
idea,
really
I love
good.
that.
Yeah, because
Every 3 years, renegotiate.
right.
Sweet.
Because, like for instance, one of the things that people say, why you don't want to get married? First of all, I was married for a very long time, so I know all about marriage and what you have to put in it. But is these things, is these bars, this institution that once you say I do, you walk into this cage and you have to stay bound in this
Yes.
cage.
Mhm.
For instance, some men will be like, well, I love to travel. And I don't necessarily always want to travel with my mate. I want to travel with my girlfriend sometimes. Well, some men will say, well, you married now. You can't do that.
I know.
And it's like, why is that something that a person would have to give up? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
Just know. Just to know.
and then you want me to go into that door.
I know, right? You're right, but you're telling the truth.
No, it's
know?
the truth.
It is the truth. You're telling the truth. She's
Or-
telling the truth. That's true. Even with
You wear a
relationships.
certain set of clothes, and then when you get married, you can't wear those clothes anymore. Or, you know, and it's just a lot of freedom has to be given up. And in essence, sometimes when you give that freedom up, you give up yourself. And so then
yes.
people wonder what happens in a relationship. Once you give up yourself, the person's not gonna be attracted to you anymore because that
gave
was
up
who
who
they
you
was
were.
attracted
You was
to.
attracted to.
Like
Yeah.
everything that makes you you is what
They're trying to peel off and
right.
take away from
and
you.
they don't realize that, you know.
Mhm.
Those little funky clothes I wore, that's me. You know, that's
Right.
what you like, you know? Or, you know, whatever
Maybe
it
if I
is.
see-
But now I don't want you
It's
to wear
always
that
been like
because,
that.
hey, I got you now. I don't want you wearing that
And it's
anymore.
really, and for most
Yeah.
people, it's really about perception of what everybody else is going to think about your mate.
That's a whole new conversation
Right.
right there.
But in essence, that's what I want. I want a life partner where we can sit down and decide together what we want. Do we want kids? How we gonna raise our kids? We gonna homeschool them, send them to school? Where we gonna live? You know, who's gonna be the financial provider? Because I used to feel like I want a man to take care of me, but I also know that in our society, there's a lot that goes with that. So you know, I've decided that I want us to sit down and decide that. So, because if we decide that the man is going to take care of us, does that mean that I revert to a little girl, like I'm a child, and now I have to get an allowance? You know, I have to ask you, can I go somewhere? Because that's not, I can't trade that. I'm a go-getter. I could get the money, so I don't have to trade, you know, my freedom of being a grown adult for a man to take care of me. And just from my experience, and I'm not saying that will always be the case, but majority of times, you know, the person who provides, even women, it kind of gives you a viewpoint of, you know, being the head of the household.
Power.
Yeah, it's a power thing. It does put you in a power position. It's kind of hard to separate, you know. So, you know, I want somebody where we sit down and decide all of that. So,
Well, you've had all those things. You've had someone take care of you. You've had that. I've never had that. So I don't know how it feels. I would like to know how it feels. And I know you said a lot of things come with that, but you know,
it doesn't have to.
yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It really doesn't have to come with that because I like the fact that, okay, hey, my man providing for me. You know, I like this and I like, not that I can't do
Oh,
it
I
for
love it too.
myself. Not that I can't do it for myself. Not that I can't do it for myself, you know, because I've always done it for myself. Always. I just want to know what it feels like. You know, what it feels like to, but as far as if that means me having to go to revert to being like a kid, no. Now I can be submissive. That's the difference in being submissive and going back to being treated like a kid. You know, I don't want that. I don't want to be treated like a kid if I gotta
Do
say.
you mean
can I do-
submissive or domestic? Which one? Because there's a difference. And I know
Sometimes I can submit, sometimes I can be domestic.
Okay.
You know, sometimes you got to play with this thing.
Alright.
You know, you got to know when to do what you need to do and how you.
I'm telling you.
I'm serious because you have to know. Sometimes you have to be submissive. Sometimes you have to be aggressive. Sometimes you have to be domestic. You know, there are different hats and different roles that you have to wear as a woman.
But you also, in being married, have to be prepared to be on different levels of a marriage. There's always different levels you will shift to. And you have to be able to shift and work it out at that level because it's going to be different issues that you'll work out every 5 years. It'll be something else you're dealing with in that marriage and you're shifting. And you just have to be prepared for those different levels.
Well, basically, that's what I'm saying. You know, maybe every 3 years you got to be domestic. You got to be submissive.
Girl, that's a day-to-day change. Right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, you know, sometimes, you know, you have to do, you know, you'd have to take on different roles and different attitudes